program. Thank you all for coming. This is an amazing crowd. Look around, it's packed. Standing room only. Welcome to the Sandwiching in History tour of Shiloh Baptist Church. And before we get started, I want to thank the congregation of Shiloh Baptist Church for allowing us to tour their beautiful building. And I'm just curious, how many people in here are members of Shiloh Baptist Church? Anybody over here? And I especially want to thank a few people from Shiloh for their help with the tour. Reverend Willie Buchanan, where are you? And Rashad Atkinson, I see him in the back. Lakeisha Buchanan, I see you over here. And Sylvester Chandler, who's also in the back. Thank you so much for your help. This tour, for any architects in the audience, this tour is worth 1 hour of HSW continuing education credit through the American Institute of Architects. So if anybody's interested in that credit, you can see me after the tour. Shiloh Baptist Church has a long history in the Hanger Hill neighborhood. The current church building was constructed in 1919 as a wood frame structure, and I passed a few of these around and told people to share. So if you didn't see this, maybe one of your neighbors has a copy. If not, I'm happy to show you this one after the tour, okay? This is the 1919 wood frame church. This is the building that we are in right now. And it was remodeled in the mid-1940s with the buff brick veneer that you see on it today. So I'm going to give you quite a bit of history on the Hanger Hill neighborhood, and then we'll talk about Shiloh Baptist Church. The Hanger Hill neighborhood takes its name from Peter Hanger. Hanger was born in 1807 at Boone County, Kentucky, and moved to Arkansas in the 1830s. By 1834, he lived at Gaines Landing in Chico County, Arkansas, in far southeast Arkansas, where he operated a mercantile business and he sold cordwood to steamboats that traveled up and down the Mississippi River. After a brief stint in Van Buren, he apparently had a few businesses in Van Buren that didn't work out so well. He ended up in Little Rock by 1848. Hanger acquired the U.S. mail contracts to transport mail from Little Rock to Hot Springs and Fort Smith by stagecoach and steamboat. He invested in real estate and a variety of other businesses here in Little Rock, including a sawmill, cotton gin, and the Anthony House Hotel, which is at the southwest corner of Markham and Scott Streets in downtown Little Rock. In 1850, Hanger married Matilda Cunningham, daughter of Dr. Matthew Cunningham and Eliza Bertrand Cunningham, who were two of Little Rock's earliest white residents. Peter and Matilda Hanger had 7 children, 3 of whom survived to adulthood, and one of those 3, Eugene Hanger, died at the age of 20. In 1859, Hanger purchased 160 acres and a 2-story Greek Revival style house in the country east of downtown Little Rock from Dr. Robert A. Watkins. And whenever I say that this was the country, it really was. I mean, you had a couple really large kind of urban farmsteads and estates out here that were several acres apiece, but besides that, it was just farmland or just empty land. And you had the house that Peter Hanger purchased from Dr. Robert A. Watkins, which was known as Oakwood. There's some records in some of the Woodruff daughters' correspondence that talks about, they lived at the Woodruff house just about half a mile from where Oakwood was located, now at 1017 East 8th Street. And they talked about how they would hear the wolves at night over here, and that Dr. Watkins was afraid that wolves would get his sheep. Okay, so this was really the country over here. The 2-story house, known as Oakwood, was located on what is now the south side of the 1400 block of East 9th Street. On November 26, 1869, Hanger subdivided the land adjacent to his home, where we are now, forming Hanger's addition to the city of Little Rock. So that's where the Hanger name comes from, for Hanger Hill. As far as the hill goes, you may have guessed it, his house was located on a hill, and they called it Hanger's Hill. But there was an interesting article in the early 20th century in the Arkansas Gazette, which talks about the final destruction of Hanger's Hill, saying, quote, "A little hill is rapidly sinking to the level of the railroad tracks and streetcar lines that cobweb that section of the city. The steam shovels are biting out chunks of the earth, and the heart's blood of the little hill is trickling down in bright red clay. Another of Little Rock's landmarks is giving way to industry." So this was in reference to the site of Oakwood, of Peter Hanger's house. And Oakwood still appears on the 1913 Sanborn Fire Insurance map, but it was later demolished to make way for the Magnolia Petroleum Company's bulk oil station, which was just west of the Rock Island Railroad tracks. And there's still some buildings from the old Magnolia Company down there right now. And all that's left, the only evidence of Oakwood over there, in 1935, the Churchill chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy placed a stone marker near the site of Peter Hanger's home of Oakwood. It's not right on the site, it's up on 9th Street, and his home sat south of 9th Street quite a bit back. But that marker is still there. You can drive by and see it today if you want to. It's right up against a red brick building right before you go over the railroad tracks on the south side of 9th Street. And it acknowledges his home's use as General Sterling Price's headquarters before the Union takeover of Little Rock in 1863. Now about Shiloh Baptist Church. The congregation of Shiloh Baptist Church was organized in 1886, and they initially met in a house at the corner of 11th and Hanger Streets. Reverend O.H. Redicks served as the first pastor. According to Little Rock City directories, by 1897, Shiloh Baptist Church occupied a building here at the southwest corner of 12th and Hanger Streets, which was Block 6, Lot 20 in Hanger's Addition. The 1.5-story wood frame church had a bell tower in the center of the front facade. And this structure served the congregation until 1919, when a new building was constructed on the same site. This one, that everybody's got the picture of. The 1919 church was a 1-story wood frame building on a brick foundation and had 2 towers, one on either side of the front facade. The tower at the northeast corner, this one, was slightly taller and housed the church bell. Rows of pointed arch windows with either frosted or very lightly colored glass fenestrated the entire building. In September 1927, Reverend C.D. Pettaway became pastor at Shiloh and served until his death on August 20th, 1968, making him the longest serving pastor in the history of Shiloh Baptist Church. He served here for 41 years. Reverend Pettaway initiated many improvements at Shiloh Baptist Church, and he was also a leader in Little Rock's African American community and beyond. He was a leader in the black community on a national scale. Caleb Darnell, who went by C.D. Pettaway, and I'll tell you right now, he's listed as Charles D., as Claude D. in different census records and city directories, but I'm going by Caleb Darnell, because it was written out like that on his World War I and his World War II draft cards, and he signed it clearly, Caleb. So I've seen it in print as Charles D. in many places, but I'm saying it's Caleb Darnell Pettaway. He was born on December 18th, 1886 at Concordia Parish, Louisiana. In 1918, he married Jenny E. Wagner of Independence County, Arkansas. C.D. and Jenny Pettaway moved to Little Rock, and they bought a house at 519 East 21st Street. And the Pettaway house on 21st Street is still standing just to the east of Pettaway Park, which was named in honor of the Pettaway family. The couple had 2 children, Paul Evans Pettaway, 1919 to 1968, and Louise Pettaway, 1922 to 1960. Jenny Pettaway died in 1944. In about 1958, C.D. Pettaway remarried. He married a woman named Cleola Hampton. In 1918, C.D. Pettaway founded the United Friends of America Fraternal Benefits Society, which provided medical care and burial insurance to African Americans. In 1922, the United Friends of America purchased a house at 714 West 10th Street in Little Rock, which was no longer there, but stood between State and Izzard Streets. It was taken out by the Interstate 630. And they bought that house for use as a 25-bed hospital. The hospital remained on 10th Street until 1965, whenever it moved to 11th and High, or MLK, and occupied one of the former buildings used by the St. Vincent Infirmary. After the deaths of C.D. Pettaway in August 1968, followed very shortly by his son's death, Paul Evans Pettaway died in September 1968, and he had been involved with the leadership of the United Friends of America. C.D. Pettaway's second wife, Cleola Hampton Pettaway, assumed control of the Fraternal Benefit Society, the hospital, and the funeral home. And she was actually a licensed funeral director herself, and was regarded as one of the area's most prominent black businesswomen. Cleola Pettaway died on September 30th, 1975, and the United Friends Hospital closed in December of that year, just a few months after her death. In addition to his work with United Friends, C.D. Pettaway served as president of the National Baptist Convention of America from 1957 to 1967, and for many years he served as vice president of that organization. He was also president of the General Missionary Baptist State Convention of Arkansas. But back to his time here at Shiloh, I just wanted to tell you how significant he was. In the mid-1940s, under his time as pastor, Shiloh's wood frame building from 1919 was remodeled with the buff brick veneer. A small addition was constructed to the west side of the church, to the back, as well. During the remodeling, buttresses and taller spires were added to the existing two towers out front. A portico with arched openings was put across the front facade. If you came in the front, you saw that. And then some window openings were changed to accommodate larger stained glass windows, here, here, and in the back. But the other window openings are the same window openings as they always were. That's the size of the original window openings in the church, and you can see that on this photograph. If you look, these windows went all the way down both sides too. You can't see it in this picture though. So the church's 1940s exterior has some elements of the Gothic Revival style of architecture, namely the pointed arch, window and door openings, and the buttressed towers out front. The stained glass windows were purchased by church members and fundraising clubs within the congregation. For example, the choir might have been club number 1, and the ushers may have had club number 2, and a Sunday school class may have been club number 3, and so on and so forth. Because if you look, like here's one right here close by, I think there's another one over there somewhere. There's a couple that were purchased by these clubs, fundraising clubs in the congregation. This window says presented by members of club number 4. That's what that means if you see that on one of the windows. So they competed to raise money for the church. So let's see, the large window at the back, and if you're sitting by it, you might be able to see it. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till I'm done and go look closely. That pew across the bottom is covering it up, but you can look behind and see that that window was given in memory of Mrs. Jenny E. Pettaway, who I was talking about, and her children, Paul Evans Pettaway and Louise Pettaway, and it was given by C.D. Pettaway. In the late 1940s and early 50s, Shiloh Baptist Church had a weekly Sunday morning broadcast called Rejoicing in the Lord on radio station KLRA. In the late 1950s, the sanctuary was updated with new pews, carpet, light fixtures, and a central heating and air conditioning unit. A PA system was added soon thereafter. In 1979, Reverend Jack R. Marshall became pastor at Shiloh, and he really focused on Christian education and community outreach. There were a lot of community programs that were involved at the church at that time. Membership increased, and the church had active Sunday school and Bible study programs. In the early 1980s, the pulpit, choir stand, and fellowship hall were all remodeled. The old, unheated concrete baptismal pool, which is still located underneath the choir stand, right there behind me, was replaced with a new baptismal pool, which is now behind the wood curtain, way back. The parking lot to the south of the church was purchased in 1983. And the Jack R. Marshall Education Building was built to the rear of the church, and it opened in February 1995. And Reverend Marshall served as pastor here until December of '97. The current pastor, the Reverend Willie Buchanan, he's back in the back now, started attending Shiloh Baptist Church, if I did my math right, in 1979. Is that right? Okay. And he's been pastor since 2010. The church currently has a membership of between 150 and 200 people, and their average attendance on Sunday mornings is between 80 and 100 people. The old church bell, which is still in this northeast tower, was manufactured by the C.S. Bell Company of Hillsboro, Ohio, and the maker's mark on the bell, which I can talk about because I've seen a photograph of it, not because I've seen it in the tower. The maker's mark on the bell means that it could date to as early as 1894, so that may be the bell from the original church on this site that predates the 1919 building here that may have kept the bell, probably did. Does anybody have any questions or anything to add?
Were the ceilings dropped in the 50s, or?
They asked were the ceilings dropped in the 50s? Not that I know of. Can any of you answer that? I think it looks about how it did.
They were lattice at the top there, but it was just really just home over.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
These columns are from the 1990s?
As far as I know, can you all speak to that, the columns, if they changed that in the 40s? I know they've got their oldest living church member here, so I'm looking at her. I don't know. And really, the columns may not be, because I know these two large windows were not here in the 1919 building. There were just, I have a picture, but it's really small in my bag. I can show you that it was just these small pointed arch windows went all the way down in a row. And the gables and the parapets on the outside, that wasn't there. So they may not have needed, it may not have gone, I don't know if they had to have the columns or not. So I can't answer that for you. There's no photographs of the interior that I've ever seen. Yes.
Who made the stained windows?
Who made the stained glass? I don't know the company, but I was told it was made in St. Louis.
Do they ring the bell?
They can't ring the bell anymore because the support structure for it is compromised. So they need to repair the bell before they can ring it again, but it's still up there.
The slope in the floor is unique. I don't believe I've ever been in a church that has about a 10-degree slope of movie theater slope to it.
Really? I've been in churches that have a slope to the floor. Just so you can build like that on purpose, so you can see better from the back. And you can see the original wood floor right here. Yeah. Any other questions? Nobody? Do y'all have anything to add? Did I miss anything really important about the church?
The pulpit used to be right over there.
The pulpit used to be over here? Okay. I didn't know that.
Then the benches are like this.
So then if the pulpit was over here, then all the benches were... Okay. That's interesting.
Especially with the slope.
Yeah, with the slope too. Okay. Thank you. Well, if nobody has anything else, I'll be around if you... Oh, okay.
I was told by one of our members that one of our assistant pastors, who is our oldest assistant pastor, used to ring the bell, and that's Reverend Banks.
Okay, here he is. Okay, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
The picture, do we know, are these the women of the congregation?
She's asking about this picture. I found this picture at the Arkansas History Commission, and they had it dated circa 1942. I think it may be a little earlier than that, but you could, you know for sure it's at the latest it's in the early 40s because they bricked the church not long after that. And this, she asked about the people in the photograph. Unless somebody over here knows, I assume it's just the women of the church or maybe a Sunday school class, and there are a couple men in the back. But I don't know who they are. Yes, Terry?
Do they have a fundraising program to restore the bell?
Do y'all have a fundraising program? You might get some money donated. They're open to it. They're not gonna turn down any money, Harry. What'd you say?
That's future plan.
And the white dresses,
Pardon me?
the white dresses, was that for a baptism or?
I don't know. She's asking about the white dresses, if it was for a baptism or a special event. I don't know. Anybody else? Yes.
How long has it been since they rang the bell?
How long has it been? Y'all know? Since you rang the bell?
I know I've been here 36 years. We hadn't ringed it in 36 years.
Okay, so it's been a lot longer than I thought. Okay. Ma'am?
Well, it's time to ring the bell.
He said he came back here in 45 and used to ring before church at funerals.
Okay. Came in 45 and used to ring it before church and at funerals. Okay. All right, unless anybody has anything else, thank you for coming. And our next tour will be Friday, October 2nd at the White Balcom House, which is at 201 South Izzard in Little Rock. And y'all feel free to look around in here, and then you can go back and look into the back part of the building if you want to, look into the current baptismal pool if you want to check that out, and then the fellowship hall and the Jack Marshall Education Building are open back there as well. Okay, thanks everybody.